Hey guys, I'm Mike Carleo, and this is my first installment of my Guitar for Dummies series, an introduction to guitar. Now today I'm going to show you what I would typically teach to somebody who's never touched a guitar before, coming into the guitar lesson for the first time. Now over the past couple of years, I've developed a lot of teaching techniques for beginners to understand how to play more fluid, how to play faster, and also how to prevent injury in the future. So let's get started with what I call the rules of guitar. I start talking about the left hand and the right hand rules, how to play correctly with both hands. A lot of guitar teachers don't do this, and it's very important because we want to try to prevent injury in the future, like carpal tunnel syndrome, tendonitis, arthritis, and we want to do our best of trying to prevent that so we can play for a very long time. So the first thing I like to do is I like to talk about the first rule, and that's arch your knuckles. And the way to practice that before you get on the guitar is to take your hand, your left hand, and to touch your thumb with each finger, your pinky, your ring, your middle, and your index. And the most important part is to curl and make sure there's an arch, just like a house, on that front knuckle. And the reason why we do that is because when we play chords, we have to make sure our fingers are not in the way of the other strings so that all of them can come out nice and clearly. Which leads to my second rule, and that's pressing close to the fret with our fingertips. So if we have an arched knuckle, we can play with our fingertips. If it's flat, it becomes nice and flubby, and we don't want that. That's a bad sound. So when we play close to the fret with an arched knuckle, that lets us play with our fingertip. So I'm going to play a couple of things. So what I like to do is I like to make a little bit of a math lesson. I want to play perpendicular to the fretboard. I want to create almost a 90-degree angle. I like to over-exaggerate to beginners to make sure they have that sense of conception when I'm explaining things, okay? So the next two rules is what I've developed over the past couple of years teaching full-time. And that has a lot to do with the thumb. And the thumb is very important when it comes to more advanced techniques like bending and vibrato. But as of right now, when we're playing what we call open chords, our chords between the 0 and the 3rd fret or open strings, your G, D, C, and there's about 7 other ones. We want to make sure that our thumb is over the neck. And by over the neck, all we're doing is just letting our thumb peek over that neck. And the reason why is because it allows our wrist to be straight. If your wrist is straight, you're going to be using a lot of what we have is our forearm muscle. And that's going to take a lot of tension off of our wrist, which prevents tendonitis, carpal tunnel, and sometimes ganglion cysts, which get really annoying. So when your thumb is over the neck, it allows us to press nice and hard without putting a lot of force into the strings, which changes the pitch. So I'm going to play a couple of chord progressions, and you'll see how my thumb just rotates around the neck when we play open chords. So. So that's it. And the last rule, which has to do with single note playing, which we're all really into, is when we play a lot of licks. Our thumb is very important with this as well. What I like to do is I like to talk about the bottom 3 strings and the top 3 strings. So we have what I call is big E, which is the thickest string, number 6, and then A, and then D, which is our bottom 3. When you look at it, it kind of looks like it from the top because, you know, visually it's on the top of the guitar, but I didn't make the rules, so I just enforce them. So these are the bottom 3 strings. And when we're playing these 3 strings, single notes, our thumb is going to be underneath the neck. So it allows us to reach up towards those bottom strings with ease. If we try to keep our hand over and reach with our pointer finger, our middle finger, it's kind of rough and it creates a lot of tension. And we need to have a lot of looseness when we play so we can create that fluidity. When we start reaching the top strings, the G string, the B string, and what I call the little E string, our thumb starts rotating above the neck, which is very important, which makes sense, really. If you're on the bottom string, you don't really have a choice but to reach up here, and our thumb naturally comes beneath the neck. When we start reaching above, the thumb starts rotating above, and then we start having our thumb over the neck, okay? So that's the left-hand rule. So the second thing I want to talk about is the right-hand technique. And what I like to say is first, is I like to say play with a loose fist. Now, I am a martial artist of 18 years. I'm a 4th degree black belt in traditional Okinawan karate. So I know a thing or two about how to make a correct fist. So we're going to get a quick karate lesson, and then we're going to go right back into guitar. So what I want you to do is hold your hand out straight, curl your fingers in, put your knuckles in as well, take your thumb and put it over the first 2 knuckles just like that. Now, we're not going to be punching anybody in the face today, so what I want you to do is I want you to take your thumb and put it over your index finger and then relax your fist, just like this, nice and relaxed, so our hand is nice and loose. In order to keep a straight wrist, which is what we want to do, which is the second rule, we've got to take our pick, put the tip out in between our thumb and our index finger. And what I like to do is I like to extend my index finger just a little bit. And when we're playing chords, it allows our wrist to be nice and straight, okay? And the last rule is for beginners, I do not want your wrist touching the strings at all. This creates bad habits when we get to certain palm muting, as well as making sure the strings are muted when we're playing scales. But right now, when we're playing our first couple of exercises in our chords, we try to not touch the strings at all to keep our wrist straight and to start good habits. So it's nice and relaxed just like that. And that's the right hand technique. So that was my first installment of my Guitar for Dummies series. The second installment is going to have the exercises it takes to practice these rules of guitar so we become more adept to them, and then we don't even have to think about them and we can prevent injury and also play a lot faster and a lot better. You can check more about me at my website down below, michaelcarleo.com, and feel free to contact me for any information or for a lesson. All right, see you later.